Hello, Deborah. Hello, Mark. Hello, Hans.
Hello, Morten.
Yay!
Just before we get started and the audience gets in, I just want to let everybody know that these two gentlemen that we are now having as part of this presentation, they have just said to me that I should put my expectations low because their colleague, Bob Flint from Standard Finishing Systems, he gave such a wonderful presentation of Horizon. So for people that are now joining, also taking over from the last session, don't get your hopes too high, right? Or is it just... just kidding. Yeah. So, Mark and Hans, it's a pleasure to see you here on the Smart Factory. Deborah and I, we really appreciate both of you and your companies and what you do. I know that Deborah has a special Hunkeler heart to some extent. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. But before we get started, and I would like to know a little bit about you as people in a second. But just before that, what does Industry 4.0 and Smart Factory mean to you guys? Mark?
Well, clearly, we see someone once said, whatever can go digital will go digital. That's happened very clearly in the pre-press area, in the press room today, the digital presses, and we see it now stepping into the post-press arena in a very big way so that customers can finally realize the value promise behind full end-to-end productivity and production. And, that's still a work in progress, of course. There's many people, including Hunkeler, of course, Horizon, others that are endeavoring in that direction. But it's amazing the accomplishments that our manufacturing partners have made in that direction, and there's more to come.
Mm. And Hans, you are obviously one of the Rolls Royces in role-based finishing, and I take that when Mark is referring to you and to Horizon, is obviously because Standard represents you in the North American market, but isn't it also something that you have to consider that when we talk IoT and Smart Factory, Industry 4.0, whatever all these names are, that you cannot limit your relationship to their supply chain. You also need to reach out to competitors, to other kinds of manufacturers that you have never thought of before?
Very much so. I mean, the graphic arts industry overall is a relatively conservative industry, but we have seen a lot of changes and a lot of pressure actually on the graphic arts industry over the last few years to really reduce cost. There has been a tremendous pressure on many printers also to reduce run length, for example, and all that can only be really accomplished with more robust automated solutions to accomplish shorter turnaround times, to offer full digital connected solutions. And Hunkeler has been in that industry for a long time. We have been working with all the leading digital print manufacturers from the beginning, from the 1980s, and we have been working through distributors and partners like Standard Finishing for over 20 years now to really serve our market in North America and around the world.
Perfect. So I take that as a yes, right?
Yes.
I just needed to.
Yes.
Oh, that was unfair. Deborah, you know these two gentlemen for some years, right?
Well, yes, I do. When I'm lucky enough to get anywhere near them at an event, I do refer to Mark Hunt as the godfather of finishing in North America. You have to make your appointment to go see him. But I actually wanted to set the tone a little in the sense that, with all due respect, finishing has been a problem. As machines are getting faster and they want to talk to each other and they need to report data so people understand the effectiveness and the efficiency of them, with people wanting less touches, So in some ways, you guys are really where everybody's looking to bring this all together to the point that, you made before. So how I mean, the press manufacturers, with all due respect to them too, seem like they're on their own mission to do what they need to do to stand out in the marketplace. And so I guess my question here is, as we're all moving forward together, are you finding more collaboration with them up front, or are you still trying to retrofit or develop technologies to fit into what they've already put out in the marketplace?
I'll take a first stab at that, and of course, Hans, I think we'll be able to go more granular, perhaps. But you're absolutely correct in stating that post-press is the final frontier, right? It's the last area to be fully integrated, and for there to be, a robust communication flow up and down the system. Hans is going to speak specifically to some initiatives today that embrace the entire industry, not just Hunkeler and Horizon, but all of the press manufacturers and other finishing companies as well. So, clearly that's necessary. There has to be some open architecture to these communication standards. The standards themselves have to become more robust and carry more detailed information than they have in the past to be truly useful to customers, and to be able to, send data up to the dashboards that you reference, where, I can really detect and measure what my productivity is, and understand where problems are. So I think that this is still a work in progress, but I think from our standpoint, we are very encouraged at the direction that we're heading in, and it won't be very long before we'll see some real benefits that will flow from that.
That sounds pretty interesting, right? So I look even more forward to be part of this conversation. Deborah, as you know, Mark and Hans and I, we're going to have our little talk for the next almost hour. So do you have anything you want to add before you take your social media role and manage the chat and, do the things behind the scenes?
Just that, a lot of profitability lies in the finishing area too. And so I think I'm really happy that you guys are here talking about it. And I hope that we can all get everybody on the same page with this automation thing, and that finishing can, like everybody says, you have to start with finishing. I totally believe it's true. And I hope we can get to a point where that is, fits every model. So as Morten says, I'm going to jump into the chat right now. And thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Wonderful that you were here.
Great to see you, Deborah.
Okay.
Good to see you, Deborah.
All right, guys. Now you are mine, right? No, just kidding. When I invited Standard to participate in this event, it was for several reasons. You and I, we have been sitting on some bus rides in Kyoto, right? And yes. We had some talks about value in the printing industry, and also in relation to media, because, and you may not think this is specifically related to the topic, but I am just taking a little roundabout to get there. One of the things that I have put as our agenda for INKISH since we started was there is a need to have a more in-depth understanding of technology. And there is a need to have some kind of learning platforms. I'm not saying that we are, I'm just saying that I believe that with the increased level of technology, where people are moving maybe from more an analog world, more into a digital world, there is a transformation process that needs to be elevated. Do you think that's a marketing subject?
I'll take first stab at that. I mean, we clearly agree, and in fact, the pandemic that we're currently going through has laid bare the necessity for that, even more so in the past. So we like to say, our a well-educated customer is our best customer, and we believe that we all have a responsibility to elevate the knowledge level of our customers, of the marketplace in general. How we do that, through what vehicles, through what media, in what formats, those are all topics of debate.
Of course, yeah.
and we're energetically trying to identify what are the most efficient models to make that happen. But I don't think anybody would dispute the premise of your statement. It's essential that we all become better informed, as to what is possible. And it's the only what we need to do that to drive the industry forward, to be able to achieve the efficiency levels that Deborah referred to a moment ago, to be able to wring the labor cost content out of the jobs wherever possible, and keep customers profitable. So it all boils down to that in some way at the end.
Of course. Hans, you work with marketing. So if not asking the same question, then at least, one of the concerns I have in relation to, I have to step one step back, by the way. Think Smart Factory in Kyoto and Hunkeler Innovation Days are by far the best events in the entire industry, in my opinion. And I'm not sucking up to you guys. I'm just saying to you that this is where you see end-to-end solutions, and this shows the complexity of integration, the complexity of software working together, and cross-vendor interfacing, and how you can collaborate with each other. And then back to the question, Hans. How do we get these messages across? Because if you look in your history and how you've been working with marketing and together with your colleagues at Hunkeler, haven't it a lot been about presenting a machine, how fast it is and what it can do and how great it finish a product, rather than educating how to get that done?
Partially. I mean, if we look at the industry, the graphic art industry, the predominant print technology is, of course, still offset. And especially these years, we have seen a tremendous decline of offset due to COVID. And there is still a lot of room to growth in terms of page count for digital printing. So I think the first message that was really transferred is that you can do more with digital printing and with digital print finishing. And I agree that we have to do, of course, more to show many of the customers the capabilities that digital print and digital print finishing can offer. Obviously, we came originally from the transactional industry, so mainly statement printing and so on, where every page was
printing your own checks, right? That is what you're saying.
But now we have seen a tremendous change over the last 2-3 years, an uptake in book solutions, book-on-demand manufacturing, down to book of one. We have seen tremendous uptake in direct mail because more and more direct mail is printed from the white roll and not the pre-printed offset shells anymore. We see many other applications in the graphic arts field and so on. And all those applications are also much more demanding, of course, much more variable, much more flexible, and we have to do a better job to show customers and educate them what is possible today, and help them, of course, to produce all these type of flexible, variable, short-run products in a profitable way.
And that reminds me, because at the last Hunkeler Innovation Days, I made an interview with Michel Hunkeler, and he said to me that it was kind of strange because everybody was anticipating and counting on the inkjet revolution. And he said in the beginning, it took a little longer time to get started than what most anticipated. So I guess that what you're talking about now, Hans, is that basically now inkjet is top of mind for most printing companies, regardless whether it's sheet or roll. And now it's really show off that the investments you have done and the knowledge that you have from the transactional industry can be converted and developed into something that is really on a higher value level, so to speak, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
I think if I can jump in quickly, I think, Morten, what has really helped accomplish that is the fact that the press manufacturers themselves have made such tremendous strides in producing high fidelity color on a much broader range of stocks, glossy stocks. And once we've passed that threshold, which we effectively have today with machines from multiple vendors, now the onus is upon us to finish that product cleanly and efficiently. And at that point, you may reach the point where most customers are saying it's not a question of if I will invest in inkjet, it's a question of when and how I will invest in inkjet.
And in relation to, some people talk about a decreasing demand in print. I don't believe it. I think it's a changing environment right now because, I mean, if it's not paper-based, then it's something else. I think that also if you look at the diversity of printing equipment today, it definitely shows that print is maybe moving from one media to another media or from one kind of applications to another application. But that I can't help think about because you guys have the finger on the pulse in North America and Hans in a global perspective. The entry points for new people that wants to get into this game, has that changed a lot now from both an investment perspective but also from a technology perspective?
I think the technology barrier has lowered somewhat.
Okay.
Part of the onboarding process, if you were bringing inkjet into a pure offset house, for example, all the press manufacturers today have teams of people that are experienced, will help, customers work through the workflow adaptations and changes that are necessary to support a digital workflow. That hasn't been the case forever, right? That's been the companies have strengthened their ability to do that. It's not like they just hand you the keys to a $1 million plus inkjet press and say, good luck to you. They have business development. They have business development teams that are helping you go out and retool your sales force to go out and try to attract the kind of high value business that is really best suited for inkjet and the variability there. So I think that customers stepping in today have a much broader toolkit available to them to make that transition comfortably. You can't escape the fact that it's still a very significant capital investment. But if you're a customer who's saying, I need more capacity, I have to innovate, I have to stay with the times, do I buy another conventional offset press or do I step in a different direction? I think that's a much healthier debate today. And I think from our experience, many customers are actually coming down on the side of saying, inkjet is a direction I need to go into.
I know that you have prepared some slides that we're going to talk about as well, but I have one question that I am a little bit interested in too, because I mean, when we talk about inkjet print manufacturers or vendors entering into the typical commercial offset space with books, with collaterals, with everything that we are talking about right now, that also to some extent opens up a completely new market for you guys, right? Because if you look at your competition in the transactional, that is like, there's a few players and them and their strengths and weaknesses. But when you enter into the for example, role-based commercial print of high quality, I would think that the typical competitor in that segment could be companies like Müller Martini or MBOs or these types of companies. So that opens up a completely new space for you as well, right?
It does. So in Standard's case, Morten, we have been handling the Horizon product line for over 35 years.
So you, of course, with Horizon have that space.
So Horizon's roots are in the traditional heartland markets that you just referred to, graphic arts, commercial print. So we have the value, actually, the benefit of being able to have some strong experience and understanding of that space. The legacy post-press equipment that prevails in that market space today. Horizon has quite a bit of it, and Horizon, of course, has been very actively, evolving their portfolio to be more digital suitable, and this has been going on for 20 years. This is not an overnight thing. They've been, making stepwise progress in that direction, and today have a very robust portfolio of digital specific solutions or solutions that straddle the two markets. So that's the other thing to keep in mind is that, you don't have to have a purpose-built finisher necessarily for digital. You can have solutions that will actually support both offset and digital input.
I actually remember in that context that Oe-san from Horizon, he said to me that we build our machines too good, they last too long.
Yes, that's true.
And I think that applies to you as well, right, Hans? But with all due respect, Mark, I know that Horizon is, of course, an important player in that segment, and especially in the digital thing. But when I was referring to the commercial offset space, I was thinking about, when you have typical offset machines, you have larger formats that normally served with Horizon equipment, right?
Sure.
So for a printing company, I remember I spoke to Heiko van Gaal from Canon Europe. And as he said to me when we spoke about the Canon IX3200, he said to me, because I was, of course, questioning the B3 size as they chose to have as part of their offering as a really big inkjet machine, right? And he was like, yeah, but the size is not so important. It is the finishing and how fast you can get things as a throughput on it, right?
Yeah.
And that is why I'm asking a little bit, because, maybe sometimes printing companies, they need to rethink what the conventions of what their investments were in the past times.
I think you really touched on something important and useful to talk about for a moment, and that is that there are some customers out there that pride themselves. I'm a 40-inch shop, so please don't talk.
I like 40-inch shops.
I'm a 40-inch shop, right? Yeah, and there's certainly a chunk of the market, right, that is going to be most efficiently served with a 40-inch press, or even an extra large format press. That's not the space, frankly, that we intend to play in. We are in we actually compete in the cut sheet conventional offset market, half size presses, if you will, mostly, and of course in the digital space. So, but there's I think the market is changing a little bit. The pure 40-inch shops are becoming fewer and fewer, I would say. Aggregation and consolidation has taken hold pretty strongly in that end of the space. We don't see. There are digital presses that run 40 inches. I think maybe Hans, you could speak. That's not been an area of priority for Hunkeler either.
Yeah, if you look, we have many examples also here in Europe. Where basically large book manufacturers have seen the need or the pressure actually from publishers also to offer short-run book production for certain titles and so on. And we see more and more large printers actually reducing their or changing their capabilities to offer digital printing and digital print finishing. And I think what is key to many large and also medium-sized printers, that they get an offering from one hand that is really connected, that really works out of the box for them, because small and medium-sized printers don't have the capacity or the capabilities that they can take 4 or 5 different pieces and put them together and make it connect and work the software or have software custom built. They need robust solutions they can purchase from reputable vendors. They know they can offer them the service, and when it comes on their floor, it is installed and it runs and it produces books or whatever the product may be in good quality from the second week on, or even the first week after it's installed, of course. And I think that's where we see our role to put these solutions together, really from feeding the roll into the digital press, coming out of the digital press, for example, to produce the book blocks, and from there moving these pre-glued book blocks into a binder and into a trimmer.
So I think we can agree on that. There is a need for education.
Yes.
1, 2. The print companies also need to think out of the box and rethink what the convention is, right?
Yeah.
They need to also look at some different kind of technologies in order to be part of the future of print, because they cannot just look in the same directions as they have already done, because the market is changing differently, right? So from that perspective, I would like to see some of your slides, Hans, because we agreed that we should take these on and then maybe chat a little bit about them, because I hope you like this so far. I think it was great to, kind of elaborate some of, the baseline for because we're going to talk about technology, of course, but I think it's these things, in my opinion, are important. Do you agree on that, or was it like stupid me?
No, great tee up. Yep.
Okay.
Good job.
Okay. Can I get a job on you? Okay. No, sorry. No, sorry. I was just kidding. Okay. This one we have seen, right? When I did this one, to be honest, I wanted to make a factory because I wrote an article some time ago on INKISH News saying that the value that you create with print, the content, the design, maybe even the creativeness in how you do things, right? That can eventually move from the printing companies to designers, to agents, to apps, to all kind of other things. So the printing companies, as we know them today, as full service printing companies, may be more of factories. Is that something that resonates with you guys?
Absolutely. Sure. I mean, I think we're seeing that basically you're seeing the printing industry, graphic arts, adopt the principles of lean manufacturing that have been, already adopted in lots of other segments, automotive, et cetera. So this is I think a relentless movement. It's not going to stop and we're happy to be a part of it.
So when we look at this slide about Hunkeler and the smart factory, you show some examples of typical applications and business areas that are important to you guys. So I was just wondering, so is the future for companies like Hunkeler and Standard, is that more like enabling the printing companies to deliver a wide variation of applications with a simple and easy moving forward strategy kind of thing?
Certainly, that's one of the aspects. The other is, of course, we see digital print and digital print finishing that started pretty much in transactional, then moved into trans-promo, got into direct mail, and now heavily moved into publishing, into commercial print applications. And we also see more and more applications, security print finishing, pharma, and special solutions. So on one hand, yes, we want, of course, to offer our customers a wide range of solutions, but we also see a tremendous growth and some shift actually of digital print and digital print finishing taking hold and a larger share within these different segments. Yep. Transactional, of course, is in terms of print volumes is declining because more is moving toward digital or PDF-based workflows. Not everything is printed anymore, invoices and so on, but we have seen, of course, our market share and our turnover share moving into direct mail with large growth, into publishing with large growth. And the digital segment in commercial printing is today fairly small, but the potential is, of course, very large. And I think it's upon us to offer the customers the solutions they need to be able to use that technology and digital printing effectively, cost effectively, and with fast turnaround time, what their customers demand from them.
That makes sense, and of course, that also raises the ever-recurring question in this industry: who drives the development of application? Is it really the machine manufacturers that comes up with the great ideas of what's possible, or is it a demand from the market on what? I mean, let's say I wanted to have a triangled aluminium hat. For that. So is that something if there was a big enough demand for that, then you could develop that, right? So what drives your development in when you look at these examples of applications and where you see the things moving? Is that driven by customers, or is it very much driven by vendors?
Let me step in quickly and say that I want to compliment both Hunkeler and Horizon for being very, very good listeners. So they do an extraordinary job keeping their ears open when customers say, you know what I would really like to do, or I love what you guys have, but it really needs to be able to do this as well. But clearly it's iterative, and I think Hans, as a manufacturer, you can speak even more eloquently to this than I can, but there's give and take, right? There's the customer wants this, but only willing to pay for that. So you end up with perhaps a hybrid solution that doesn't necessarily achieve everything you're looking to do, but it's affordable and covers a wide swath of the market. I don't know, Hans, maybe you have other comments.
Well, it is sometimes, the chicken or the egg question, what comes first. Yeah. But I think Hunkeler, together with our partners, we have organized events like Innovation Days to really draw customers in, to show them new things, to listen what they think about new ideas. And not everything that we show there becomes then a product right away. Sometimes too early on. I can give an example of the Hunkeler fly folder. It was developed almost 15 years ago.
Really?
The big run into the fly folder for true Book of One manufacturing has only really taken off about 3 years ago, when all the installations they did 10 years ago and 12 years ago were just early adopters. And now we see basically more and more customers demand such solution because their customers demand it or are looking for a solution to produce a Book of One in several hours, and then it's out the door, just as an example.
Perfect. Next up, what do we have there?
Yes, here I think this is an exciting announcement I would like to make here. That Hunkeler, together with partner, basically announces a new data interface initiative for the digital print industry.
Wow.
What's the purpose of that new interface? It's really to answer the question that Deborah started at the very beginning. Currently, most printers really use just a Type 1 Plus interface that has many limitations because only analog signals can be transferred or transmitted between digital printer and finishing. So it's really high time that we have a data interface that basically allows Industry 4.0 processes and process automation. For that, we really need to be able to exchange data between the press, coming, of course, from the workflow and being transferred to the post-press. So we focus really on function, not on the technology. So it's really all about the function, what we can do, what are the use cases. And the good thing is that really all major press and finishing partners are on board. With that, I also mean competitors, our competitors.
It must hurt. It must hurt, Hans.
And their competitors. But we believe in an open standard, an open interface, and universal interface, because we believe this is the only way and the right way to go for the industry to really move that automation piece, Industry 4.0 type of factory automation forward that the industry needs and can really utilize to its benefits very soon, or we are in the middle of it, really.
Congratulations on that announcement. That is really cool. If I want to make an analog parallel, something kind of that, does that kind of, because I think for years, all the manufacturers of digital equipment and binding equipment have had kind of exchanged standard interfaces for how to feed into each other's systems, right? So could this be a parallel to do this, but where it's just the job tickets and the ordering information and the setup, so that it's an extension to that?
Correct. Yeah.
A question I can't help thinking about, because and it's not because I want to be critical, it's just because I'm curious about this. But if you look at what you write here, for example, right, isn't that a JDF ticket?
Yes, it basically, of course, we use the data itself are, of course, being used in the based on the JDF-JMF standard. JDF and JMF has been used for some job tickets, of course, in the printing industry for some time. Mm-hmm. But the data flow, especially in the digital print environment, has not been really very well adapted, because certain standards in the JDF or in the ZIP4 standard didn't really take into consideration all the possibilities that digital printing and digital print finishing offers. And we basically want to make sure that these standards are extended, that they meet really the digital print and digital print finishing needs.
So it's fast forwarding a need that the industry has to be able to communicate cross vendors, basically, right? Because I mean, that was the intention with ZIP4 and JDF and XJDF, and I think that a lot of dreams have got into it, but I think the adaptation for some of the standards have been less of impressive, so to speak. Also, because then if you don't have a standard that complies to every need you have, then you have to develop something on the side in order to make sure that it works, right? So basically, is this an open standard that anybody can subscribe to?
Exactly.
Yep. Sounds great. And I can see that you write it's already available in 21. And is that something where you can expect this to be rolled out relatively fast? Because I guess that when you as Hunkeler come with this kind of initiative, this is something that you have identified. I guess that when you speak to people like Horizon, because you have this good relationship, you also get the feedback from them that there is a need for this kind of interface. And then, so this is not something that you have found out to do this morning, I take. This is something that has been talked about.
No, that's correct. Right? I mean, these discussions, of course, have been going on for quite some time, because it's important that, as I mentioned, also all our competitors are on board, because only then it really works across the entire value chain.
Fantastic. I congratulate you on that one. I think it's always very important to have these standards. I think it makes things easier for third parties. I make it easier for people that really want to become as efficient as possible, that you don't have to speculate too much in how to make your workarounds to make things work, right? So fantastic.
If I may, Morten, I think in the past there have been some other ambitious attempts at standardization for the digital print world. UP3I comes to mind, right? And that was a big bite of the apple, maybe too big of a bite of the apple. And this is, I believe, and Hans, correct me if I'm wrong, designed to be a much more efficient, easy to adopt approach that is really built around pragmatism. I mean, it's to help the press manufacturers communicate the information that the post-press manufacturers absolutely need to do the things customers want, and vice versa for the post-press manufacturers to be able to send back upstream to the presses the information they need to be able to do the things that customers want. So it's built that the motivation, the impetus is much more grounded and practical.
And in that perspective, is that something that can also be applied to existing equipment, or what kind of legacy can you support with this?
Yeah, there are still some discussion going on also among the different parties, of course, how much of the legacy equipment will be able to upgrade it. Some will be, some will not. I think it depends then a little bit on the vendor, of course, because the implementation itself then lays within the different vendors.
Yeah, and requires, of course, some skills and some work and some rollout plans and things like that. So I get that, but it's not like it's 21 and then it's equipment from there. It's also, there is some kind of in between, so people that invest in a machine today, they don't have to fear, right?
Of course, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we are, as a Hunkeler, for example, we already shipping our new generation equipment, the Gen 8, for almost 3 years. And of course, all that type of equipment will be able to take advantage then of these advantages and this functionality that interface will give or offer.
That's perfect. As you know, time flies by, so we need to go through our equipment. I knew that we were going to see equipment.
Yes,
can I ask you why have you not decided to make them purple or something like that, just to stand out a little bit? Sorry, I couldn't help.
We used to have actually equipment that was more in the purple bluish with the generation 4. And today, the Hunkeler equipment, we are at the generation 8 already of digital print finishing. What I want to show here is just Hunkeler has been I believe the leader in continuous feed print finishing solutions for a number of years, and the portfolio has been growing. And as you can see, many of these solutions are connected with post-finishing equipment, as shown here, with some Horizon binders, with some Horizon folders, with Horizon stitchers, just to show some examples. But I think the key is also that these systems are more and more truly connected so that it is easy for the operator to operate and set up the line in a much, much more automated fashion than they used to do. And because Hunkeler is serving a number of different market segments, it's important to offer different solutions for these different market segments.
And one of the things I can't help talking about is that, again, you also show equipment that is, when you talk about these end-to-end solutions, that is, again, that, the efficiency of I mean, I used to work in printing companies. To be honest, it was commercial printing company, most of them, and they were like relatively conventional. But it was always, it was also in finishing and binding that you saw the most labor intensive, the bottlenecks. Typically, we had shifts in 2, 3, 4, 5 shifts on the printing machines, but maybe only 1 or 2 in the finishing department. So what you're doing here is basically showing that you have equipment that can easily be integrated to make, depending on your applications, of course, but then you can actually make end-to-end solutions that can be automated in a far broader extent than normally, right?
That's correct. I mean, just the solution that is here on the slide, it's basically a roll splicer and an automated turret rewinder that can really increase productivity of the printing press, the most expensive, basically, piece of equipment in a line, by up to 30%. Wow. And that, of course, reduces really cost down to the pieces that are being printed. That makes really money for the customer. As an example, just a roll splicer, because it allows you, you don't longer have any downtime to change the roll. Yeah. That is today, or in conventional equipment, just depending on how fast the operator basically works or has the skills to do a roll change. And we want to take exactly that labor part out, so that anybody can basically do roll splicing in an automated fashion, non-stop, and with that increase the productivity.
Fantastic.
Should we play the video, Hans?
Because of the time, I suggest that we just move on to the next slide. Okay. Mark.
Sure. Or we can ask a question, because
please,
dear audience, just so you know, we don't have any sessions after this one. If you don't mind, and you don't have any say in this anyway, I think we should extend this with 15 minutes. So don't worry, I see there's a lot of questions. So maybe we should just take a few of the questions and then we move on, because then, people that don't have time to hang out with us, we can get them answered. Does that make sense?
Wonderful.
Sure.
We have RRRCCC. I think that Bob referred to that as a brand of Coca-Cola in America. I think this is a newspaper. printer. So, but he says, thank you for giving me the opportunity to meet the top leaders in the finishing department. If we move to automation, what about the maintenance and spare parts handling? It's done by manual or robots will take care of. Just for a little history, I think that this gentleman works in the newspaper printing industry, and obviously from some of the questions yesterday, it sounded like that he could be interested in working towards a digital printed newspaper instead of an cold set printed thing. So I think that what he's interested in, of course, is how do you see the maintenance part of equipment in a time where we need to be more and more productive?
Well, I'll try to attack that from the North American perspective anyway. We currently have a hybrid service model across North America, and many of our solutions are actually maintained under contract by the printer vendors, which our equipment is attached to. So if you're attached to a Canon press or Ricoh press, an HP press, screen press, whatever. Pardon me if I left anybody out. You have ordinarily organized a service agreement with that manufacturer, and they take care of the entire solution. We recognize that we need to be adapt to certain situations where larger customers might have service engineers under the roof already. That's currently the case, for example, in some of our higher volume direct mail customers. We are more than happy to service train those people. They would come to our demonstration center and training center here in Andover, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston, and they'll go through the exact same training protocol and process that we put the partner service engineers through. I think that it's worth noting as well that Hunkeler is working hard, as is Horizon, to provide more remote service capability. I would say we're not in full flight on that capability today, but I think that's something to stay tuned to, and we recognize that that's not just a nice to have, that's going to be a must have in the future.
And especially. That also, and I know that also applies to a lot of different other vendors, also offset printing vendors and things like that. And I think that is, as you say, that's a necessity moving forward because we can't be, I think that the pandemic has learned us that we can't be dependent on traveling, and we can't be dependent on on-site personnel all the time, because that makes the companies too fragile, basically, right?
Sure.
Let's move on to the next question. This is my good friend Don Carly from New York. He's asking here, what are your plans to support standards for digital twins and digital threads using standard ontology representations and models such as JSON, LD-based digital twins definition language, or the ISO digital twin framework manufacturing ISO DIS 23247-1. That is a quite technical question, and I would say that if you can't answer that just like this, I think we forward the question, and I think you should get back to Don. He's a good guy to be allied with. So I didn't, as you can probably hear, I didn't read the question before I read it. So do you have any comments on it, or you want to get back to him?
I think we need to get back to him because I don't want to give an answer here out of the blue that would not meet his really what he expects. So I want the experts on that, consult the experts on that.
That's great. I can see that he's also asking a question similar where he's, what is your plan for support of the ISO 2677 ICC MAX standard for managing the appearance of expanded gamut color and embellishment effects? I take that is maybe more for the print manufacturers rather than for the finishing, but it raises a good question, because when you have roll-to-roll based finishing and you have online embellishment with for example, spot UV and things like that, does that raise a question in relation to finishing?
Certainly, it basically requires inline print quality control capabilities that Hunkeler has had for a number of years, and that we are continuously expanding, because you need to have also the quality control automated to basically do unattended roll-to-roll printing with splicer and automated turret reminders.
But I was thinking actually down to something that is maybe way more physical, because I mean, if you have yesterday we saw the world premiere of the MTI AlphaJet. I know it's not role based, but it's a relevant question. It could do. I can't remember the thickness right out of my head, but it was relatively thick spot varnish and foiling. It was capable of doing with digital embossing as well.
Yep.
So I was just thinking that if you get like a roll where you have different levels of paper, you cannot have it as stretched as you might need in order to get a good finishing. So to some extent, that could maybe be an issue that you have to speculate about in how you transport the paper and how you do the finishing. Or am I totally wrong on that one?
I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, we for example, Hans, I don't want to speak for you, but I know Hunkeler, for example, has different belt systems that are available to handle, for example, extra slippery coated stock. So extra slippery coated stock will have a tendency to slip and slide, and it may be more difficult to get a quality stack from. And there's different adhesion belts that can be utilized to help address that issue. So you're absolutely correct. I'm sorry, Hans, I stepped over you a little bit there.
No,
maybe Hans will take the next one. We got a question from Holman Mar asking, in regards to the open standards, will there be collaboration to consolidate marks as well? There can be potential savings from engineering waste if they do. Do you understand the question 100%? I'm not 100% sure. I try to read it again. In regards to the open standards, will there be collaboration to consolidate marks as well?
Yes.
You know what it means?
Yes, I know what it means.
Tell me what it is, please.
So it's basically today all the different finishing equipment needs a data matrix code that they can identify a certain piece and then get the information what they need to do to that particular piece of documents.
Those marks.
This is actually one of the first topics we address or working on the new data interface, that we actually can recognize or identify these different products that are coming down the road without any marks. So we have basically a markless process, and that saves, of course, paper. It saves on reading errors, on real estate on the paper, and so on. So this is definitely a high goal or a topic that we are working on together with different printer partners as well, to get the documents identified and know what has to be applied to these documents, maybe a perforation, maybe cut position and things like that.
So I think that the question from Holman Mar was excellent and extended also to there can be potential savings from engineering waste if they do. And that is obviously because if you can make sure that you can communicate throughout the cross vendors, of course you have less setup time, and I think that the setup time will be faster as well, right?
Exactly, and we actually have a slide on setup time, which we would love to show the next one after maybe another question or so.
Okay. Holman Mar just answers, great, thanks, Hans, and competitors as well. And yes, I can answer that without question because you said that was part of the standard. So we will revert to you if you don't have competitors on it. So just a final question, and I think it's maybe a little bit off topic to some extent because it's again from RRCC. Is online perfect binding possible in cold state newspaper printing? We have 128 pages of A4 sizes folded signature in a single printing with a speed of 50,000 copies per hour. I would say that that is of course fast, and I would say that you normally when I hear, and correct me if I'm wrong, Hans, but I think that Hunkeler is in the digital space, and that you are not really addressing the cold set market, and I would say that under all circumstances, RRCC, is basically that what you will do in case you do that, you will never have a signature of 128 pages. It will simply be impossible to make sure that you get the right foldings. So that will be split into webs that can easily be bound in conventional binding towers that you see in web offset presses.
Yeah.
So I hope that is a sufficient answer, and I hope that you gentlemen agrees on that answer too, of course.
Yeah.
All right, that was the questions for now. Should we see a video? Is that what you're saying?
So Hans, would
Yes,
you like to skip the turret video and proceed to the next, or?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So I think where automation, of course, also comes in is really in setup and changeover. I think that's another area where customers struggle a little bit, especially when they have to do a lot of changeover. So when we talk often about or relate to offset, there basically they only run 1 or 2 formats. What we see our customers are doing, they run 50 or 80 different formats, and they want to do that, really change it on the fly. And of course, if you, just as an example, want to produce A4 books and then you go to A5 and then to A6, all the changeover that needs to be done is labor intensive and it creates downtime. And with the new automated technology from Hunkeler on the cut stack line, we basically have automated these changeover and setup processes. Mark, would you bring in the video so that we can have a look how that looks like and what that means? Of course, it's a role-fed system. Here, we're still reading a code today. We are basically, when we have a changeover, we're cutting the web automatically. We are moving the knives. These may be linear slitters, as we show here. It could be edge trimming knives and so on, automatically into the position. And as soon as those are positioned, the web starts to run again, because we can run between 1 up, 2 up, 3 up, and 4 up processes. As you can see here on the conveyor belt, we have, of course, in all the different pieces of equipment, we have multiple steps that need to be adjusted. And in the video here, we see these different steps basically throughout the production line that need to be adjusted in an automated fashion. We are using basically a setup job that is marked here in blue. That helps basically just to give a little bit of web to move then the web forward during that automated setup process. And as soon as the new print job arrives, of course, then we also are able to move those sheets then through the separation section into the stacker. The stacker is using vacuum belts so that it also can handle very easily glossy stocks, anything from lightweight paper, 40 GSM, all the way up to 300 GSM cardboard stock. And all these changeover, of course, happen simultaneously, so that the stopping time that we create in the cutter is less than 1 minute, depending on the changeover. 1 minute is pretty much the maximum. If the changeover is only, for example, the cutoff line, then there is no stop, because the cutoff change, as we see here, can happen fully automatically on the fly. We divert, of course, waste paper automatically and can do variable chip outs, as we show here, with that technology as well. So we have the first systems now going into the field. Wow. And becoming commercially available next year.
Fantastic. As I said to you before, every time you see technology in work and also presented in your great animation, I mean, it strikes me how automated and how fantastic technology develops also, because I mean, it's not just about accuracy and speed, it's also a matter of understanding the customer applications that you need to get out of in the other end. Is that something that, how long time does it take, just for me to know, training on a product like this? Is that something that is complex to learn?
No, we try, of course, use technology to take the complexity out of it. And that's really where the collaboration, of course, with our printer partners comes in, because in order to utilize such an automated piece of equipment, it's very important that the impositioning, the workflow is basically set up the right way, and that we can only do together with our partners so that it actually is easy to use for the operator and for the customers at the end.
Fantastic. Let's move on to the next.
Okay, Morten, we wanted to show another example of the technology marriage, if you will, between Horizon and Hunkeler. This is an integrated saddle stitching system, which is a product of collaboration, systems integration between those two companies. It's based on the StitchLiner platform, which is in fact the market leader in North America, with over 300 machines in the field. And you see below some of the customers that are, in fact, the reference accounts for this StitchLiner 6000 system. This has become the solution of choice for companies that are engaged in mission-critical documentation in the financial and healthcare markets, for example, or I should say most especially. The system is highly regarded for stability and reliability. Again, a product of the cooperation between Hunkeler and Horizon to make certain that the systems interoperate cleanly. And I mentioned the financial and healthcare areas. These are heavily regulated, and so the system is capable of being equipped. In fact, most in the field are equipped with camera systems that provide 100% document integrity for compliance with HIPAA and other regulations. And this is compliance at both the sheet level and the document level. So quite an impressive set of capabilities there. And I will actually, I've got a very quick video that we can shoot to that helps understand the process of operation a little bit. So you'll see we've got a pre-printed roll in this case. It's being sheeted into basically 12 by 18 sheets in the North American market. They're being accumulated here. We also have a separate sheet feeder. We talked about that straddling the offset and digital world. We can also take other product. We've got 2 tracks here, so we're able to organize variable sheet count documents. You see on the left-hand side a cover feeder, a high-speed cover feeder, which can be inserting a offset printed sheet, for example. The sets are plow folded, dropped onto a saddle, stitched, and then presented to the 3-knife trimmer, where they are 4-edge trimmed and then head and foot trimmed. And again, the magic of the system is I have the ability to have completely variable documents exiting the conveyor, one after the next, completely different, and again with full integrity. So anyway, that's just a little overview of how that system works.
And in your opinion, Mark, when you look at these things, one thing is that you get impressed by speed and quality and how everything works, but is the market for these relatively complex solutions, is that a growing market in your opinion? Not just because of the transformation into web, but also because with the automation that we have as part of the agenda for this week.
Sure.
So how do you see that?
I think the markets where this is already a well-established technology are, as already mentioned, financial, healthcare. You're seeing it in some catalog-related environments, although that's probably a growth area, I would say. Custom publishing, magazines, or magalogs, as they're sometimes called, is another sort of niche market for this type of solution. But it's obviously, you have to have a very high volume of bespoke product to justify this kind of investment. So typically you're finding it in environments where you've got very short turnaround windows. We, for example, sell this, a customer of ours in the greater Washington, D.C. area utilizes this to create congressional records documentation. that has to be on every senator's desk at 6 a.m. the following morning. That kind of, quick turn digital print product is a perfect application for this. And then, of course, the highly variable financial and healthcare markets are critical.
I have no words. That doesn't happen very often.
And maybe is that a great invitation to the next slide?
You just keep them coming, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Another example, basically, of highly automated solution is the different Hunkeler book block solution lines. We basically have two different solutions. One we show here is our plow folder solution for short run, connected to a Horizon Perfect Binder and Trimmer. And we also have our fly folder for variable book of one solution available. So the fly folder is really a solution that produces one book after another, where all of the 3 dimension, meaning page count, thickness, spine length, and width of the book can change from one book to the next at very high speed, very high production capabilities. We also have a short video of that, if you like, to show that. So this is basically the fly folder solution that creates 4 and 6 page signatures. So starting off a roll, perforate basically the signature then and cut the web into sheets, folding the sheets. So here we see the perforation that is happening. And this is about the production speed up to 130 meters per minute, which is about 320 feet per minute. Here we are doing really the folding of the signatures. Here you see it actually the real space, and we can change from folding 4-page signatures to 6-page signature really on the fly, non-stop. These signatures are then collated in our star wheel stacker delivery, glued together in the spine, and being delivered basically book by book at very high rate, where they can be connected also to fully variable perfect binders.
No more. I'm saying it. We have extended the hospitality of both your host, who's been sitting here for 4 hours, plus my co-host Deborah Korn, and our audience. I'm sure that if people want to, just so people know, let's turn off the presentation here. Let's see, stop the slideshow here. I want to see you guys. Your LinkedIn profiles, Deborah has shared them in the chat, so people can reach out to you if you're interested to know more. As far as I can see, you have a lot of the smart factory, and you definitely show a smart factory here. That is for sure. And also with of course with the new interface the digital interface, you definitely take that to another level again. When we talk about the smart factory, for example, tomorrow, first of all, my colleague from France, Yves, is from INKISH France, is going to talk about the business models behind the smart factory, because I think that is something that is relatively interesting for people to understand and know about in case they are investing, because I think these machines look wonderful, but I don't think they come too cheap, I guess. So it's important that you get that aligned, of course. And tomorrow morning, my first session is about the digital mindset. So we're going to talk about what the digital mindset is and why all this equipment, both the software and the hardware, is influenced by how customers are thinking and how everything is aligned with the future of moving skills and technology. I can't help think about, because Solimar, software developer of, among other things, PDF-based, we're talking yesterday, and as we spoke about yesterday, and which is I find a little bit relevant and interesting in this perspective as well, is that we have everything is down to the fact that we need to deliver input to the machines, of course. We have to get that processed in the right way. And one of the questions we spoke about was that if you look at Industry 4.0, we talk about it since it's new, but we don't really talk about mobile phones and internet, because that was Industry 3.0. That is on our backbone right now. And maybe in just a few years' time, Industry 4.0 will not be something that we discuss, because it's just the natural way, and then we will start talking about Industry 5.0. In both of your companies, because I take that, Mark, even though that you are like a representative and maybe more like a sales company compared to Hans, who is a manufacturer, is Industry 4.0 and Smart Factory, is that something that you talk about also in your companies in relation to your customers, or is it something that we just talk about at events like this?
Well, obviously, we are following Hunkeler and Horizon into Industry 4.0 because we don't develop ourselves. So you are on 3.9 right now. Well, we like to think we're not too many steps behind them. We try to stay up, but the truth is we're not a developer, right? So we are in fact talking to our customers about the solutions that are call it 4.0 ready, that are available from Horizon and Hunkeler. We provide feedback to Hunkeler and Horizon to help inform their development roadmaps and to make certain that they are tuned into what we consider to be market requirements, and we facilitate some of that dialogue that we talked about earlier. I said both Hunkeler and Horizon are very good listeners, but the truth is we are not, we're not paving the way ourselves. We are really in lockstep with our manufacturing partners. So it's probably a better question for them.
But before I get your answer, Hans,
Sure.
I would like to. The reason I'm asking you, Mark, is maybe because I was thinking that when this is a subject that is talked about a lot, and we talk about 5G telephones, we talk about robots, we talk about all the things that we know will be part of the Industry 4.0. I would assume that sometimes customers would come to you and say, "So, what is your take on robots? How do we integrate that?"
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you are part of the conversation with your customers. That
for sure, and to the degree that we have solutions that meet that customer's request, we're delighted, right? There are certain, but of course we follow Horizon and Hunkeler in that area. So again, we feedback everything we can to them so they can make smart, informed decisions about how they deploy their engineering resources and how they, fine tune and develop their new products.
The manufacturing process, we are using robots, of course, for some of the processes ourselves. And of course, we have almost weekly discussions with customers to utilize also robots as a handling means to basically taking out manual labor steps that can easily be done with robots. So this is, and Hunkeler, we have an engineering department for that. So beside basically our standard modules and lines, we of course do a lot of custom engineering for customers, specifically for their workflow, for their process, and do the necessary custom adaptation. And the more and more we see that, of course, the more products basically, or the more such solution will also productize and become available to anybody.
So Morten, I'll take the opportunity now to actually refer anybody listening on this subject back to Bob Flynn's presentation, which you referenced earlier, because Horizon is obviously rapidly developing a fleet of solutions, and robots are at the center of some of those, right? With the robotic presentation of book blocks into the perfect binder and so forth. So it isn't that we are not involved, but we are really following our manufacturers in that process.
Let that be the final note for this session. I would like to add that, first of all, I believe this has been wonderful. Secondly, I think you were just on par with Bob Flynn for some reason. I will say that. So don't be too embarrassed. Don't go cry or anything like that. Celebrate and do like this on your own shoulders.
Good.
I really enjoyed your presentation. I think it was thoughtful and educational, and I hope you enjoyed it too.
Very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
So let's close it for today, and I will be catching up with you next week just to talk about the evaluation. What can we do better and things like that. But for now, I just want to say thank you very much. And for the audience, we are ready again tomorrow at 11. If you can stand listening more to me, 11 a.m. ET. Eastern is about the digital mindset. So I hope to see a lot of people there. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day ahead of you.
Thank you to you, Morten, and all the listeners.
Thank you, Hans. Bye-bye.